This is the PickBits Daily Signal for Saturday, July 11th, your signal in the day's tech noise. Here's the lineup. 1. Apple just spent $30 billion on chips, and the story it's telling about what those chips do is very, very small. 2. The AI price war has been running since May, and this week it finally reached the tokens that actually pay the bills. 3. Patreon shut the door on the bots that have been hoovering up creators' paid work for free. And 4. On the brighter side, Anthropic pointed its own money at the diseases the drug industry decided weren't worth chasing. Let's get into it. This is the PickBits Daily Signal. Story 1. Apple expanded its deal with Broadcom to more than $30 billion. That's the largest U.S. manufacturing commitment Apple has ever made. Broadcom builds over 15 billion American-made chips for Apple out of its Colorado site. Apple puts $1.5 billion straight into Broadcom's Fort Collins plant, and the whole thing rolls into the $600 billion Apple's already pledged to spend at home. Tim Cook called it another step toward an end-to-end silicon supply chain in the U.S. Broadcom's stock jumped almost 6%, its best day since February. Now ask Apple what those chips actually do, and the answer is almost funny.
Apple says the deal is for components that help its devices connect to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it's not giving much detail beyond that. But Bloomberg's reported that part of the work is tied to Apple's first dedicated AI server chip, so we'll see if anything materializes on that front.
That connectivity story is doing an awful lot of work for $30 billion. Nobody spends $30 billion on a Bluetooth chip. And remember where Apple actually sits. Back in April, they confirmed they pay Google about $1 billion a year for the Gemini that handles the Siri requests your phone can't. So Apple has quietly given up on winning the model race, and it's making very sure it owns the hardware underneath whoever does. Look who's on the other end of the pen, too. In June, Broadcom unveiled Jalapeno, OpenAI's first custom chip. Same contractor, 3 weeks apart. Broadcom is now the shop you call when you're done being NVIDIA's customer. Your move this week? Go find out which chip your AI workloads actually land on, because almost nobody has checked. And if a pipeline is welded to one vendor's toolchain, loosen it while loosening is still cheap. Follow this one. It moves in $30 billion steps. Story 2. Meta shipped Muse Spark 1.1 and priced its coding API underneath OpenAI and Anthropic. And this time, Meta opened the door to developers.
It isn't just shipping a consumer feature here. It's opening the door for developers to build on Muse Spark directly, and according to CNBC, it's doing so with aggressive pricing, aimed squarely at the coding and agent market, where OpenAI and Anthropic have been...
That aggressive pricing is a polite way of saying somebody is eating a bill. Now hold on, because everybody's calling this the opening shot, and it isn't. We've been tracking this fight since May 23rd, when DeepSeek made its 75% discount permanent and put output tokens at 87 cents a million against roughly $30 for GPT 5.5. That's about 34 times cheaper. Then in June, the labs split right down the middle in public. OpenAI pushed effective costs down, and Anthropic went the other way and charged twice as much for Fable 5 in exchange for about 5% more performance. So let's not call this the start of anything. DeepSeek's logic has finally reached the one workload that actually prints money. Meta just turned the coding model into a loss leader. And here's my problem with the discount. Coding is the most expensive inference there is, and it just got the biggest discount. Agentic coding means long context, long output, many turns, and that cost doesn't vanish because a pricing page changed. So this week, put your current rates and metas side by side on your real workloads and measure per finished task, not per million tokens, because a cheap token that needs 3 more turns is not cheap. Then read the fine print for rate limits, retention, and whether that price is contractual or introductory. Send this to whoever signs your engineering tooling bill. Story 3. Patreon turned on Cloudflare's crawler blocking, so the AI bots that scrape creators' paid posts to train on now hit a closed door. It runs on the controls Cloudflare shipped on July 6th, which split crawlers into 3 buckets: search and training and agents, so you can keep Google and still throw out the training scrapers. Patreon set it platform-wide. Every creator page is covered, and not one creator had to touch a setting. And Cloudflare has the receipts on how lopsided this got.
Cloudflare found that OpenAI's GPT bot hits some websites 17,000 times for every one user it sends back. Worse? Anthropic's Claude bot, over 73,000 scrapes per click.
Those numbers are the whole argument, and they're worse than most people think. Every one of those scrapes is a page somebody wrote and nobody paid for. Now, we've watched this consent fight try every other route this year, and they're all slow. In May, Amnesty called bulk training pipelines a mass invasion. In June, Hollywood's actors got AI consent and pay written into a contract, which works great if you happen to have a union. Then a federal appeals court heard for the first time whether training on copyrighted work is fair use, and last week 100 authors started suing Anthropic individually. Courts will take years, and Patreon took an afternoon. If you build models, read that line twice, because nobody is going to litigate the free pile out of existence. It's just getting switched off, one platform at a time, by an infrastructure company with a checkbox. So this week, open your Cloudflare dashboard, block the training category, keep search allowed, and then actually check that it took. Send this to a creator you know, because most of them still think this is somebody else's job. Story 4. Anthropic says it's going to develop its own drugs. In-house AI discovery programs, plus a bioscience product called Claude Science to run them. And the target they named out loud is the good part. The diseases Big Pharma considers unprofitable. The rare ones, the neglected ones, the conditions where the spreadsheet never closed. They're pointing the models at the early, expensive stages, finding the target, and designing the molecule, and working out what's even worth chasing. And a doctor who actually does this work put it better than I can.
Is their DNA?
Could we look through a large library of genome results along with medications and see if we could repurpose some of those medications? Because most of the time, 95% of the time, these rare diseases right now don't have a
That repurposing idea is the most practical thing in this whole story. Those drugs don't exist because a spreadsheet somewhere said no. So what got my attention here is, who's writing the check? Anthropic isn't selling this to a biotech and taking a fee. It's running the programs itself at the end of the market where there's no payday waiting. Now the honest part, a policy brief last month put a number on the gap. More than 200 AI-discovered drugs are already sitting in clinical trials, and not one of them has been approved. Everybody already knows AI can find a molecule. Nobody has shown it can make the math close on a disease nobody funds, and that's the thing I'll be watching. Plenty of labs say AI will cure disease, but I've not seen one spend its own money where there isn't any. Follow this one. And if a rare disease touches your family, go find its patient registry, because that's how these programs find their cohorts and how families hear about a trial early. If you keep one thing from today, keep that last one. I've spent all week reading about companies buying chips and undercutting each other on price, and then one of them turned around and pointed the same technology at kids who've been waiting 15 years for somebody to tell them what's wrong. I'd like a lot more of that. That's the signal. I'll see you tomorrow.